It's it's a little bit tricky, because we use so much of our personal lives in this technique. When you talk about substitutions or moment before, everything is, we just keep continuously pull from our lives. And the reason we do that is we want the performance to be based in truth.
Mhm.
And so I mean, and there are those actors who can just imagine characters and situations, and that's perfectly fine too. I have no problem with that. I think that this is in some ways, it just y- it's just easier in some ways to just assign a substitution or a place, because all of these things are going to fuel your inner work, your emotional life, but then also your behavior. um, okay, so it is important to feel like you're being truthful, and to feel like you're being you, and that you're really being in this situation. At the same time, we can't always trust that just being ourselves is going to be the most interesting choice.
Agreed.
And
Yep.
and ultimately, because I remember one of the things Roy London used to say, which always made me laugh, because actors would, there wasn't a class that went by that someone wouldn't say, "Well, in my real life, I did that," and he would always say, "Real life isn't that interesting. If you
Right.
want to watch a real life, you go sit at the counter at Denny's and watch people. It's not that interesting." So you always want to raise the stakes and make it bigger than real life. It has to be, more important than real life. The situation has to be, if you can ask yourself the question, why does this have to take place now? That will often get us to the reason why this is so important, and why I have to have this conversation now. And I think also it's important to, just figure out what in the world. Raising the stakes is always one thing that's going to make it, bigger than real life. But I think that, and I know you're taking the archetype workshop on the 9th. I think it'll be really helpful too. But if you were to, it just, I don't know if you know a lot about archetypes. Do you know what we'll be talking about?
I mean, I talk about it in marketing, I feel like.
Okay.
So like in a different context, but we have, all the different personas, we call them personas.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them. And the ones that we're going to cover, on the 9th are just the more common ones that you see in, that fall under the hero umbrella, but also that you usually see in literature and cinema. But I think, going back, this is the Lester Bangs character, is that right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and is he talking to the young boy, or who's he talking to?
He's talking to the woman DJ,
Oh, okay.
who, like, comes back to his studio in San Diego and
Okay.
surprises her, I think, and
Yeah.
and then kind of takes over her like set for the day a little bit.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so what do you think is his scene objective?
So his scene objective is to convince her that there's better music out there than what she knows of.
Okay, and what's that going to get him?
Um, Gratification that he's
I think because he's a journalist, right? He's an editor for the Rolling Stone or something like that. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah, the Cream
Okay.
magazine, yeah.
Okay, let's make it really selfish. Okay, and what I mean by that is, I mean, it's one thing for me, I can convince you my music is better than yours. But if what I mean by selfish is, let's say that he probably has personal relationships with some of these band members, or maybe he wants a personal relationship with some of these bands and their music, and that connection, because you're in this, how personal and how emotional that that can be when you really believe in somebody and something that you're doing, and you want to get behind them. So I think that rather than just trying to convince her that it's good music, you want to convince her, because you want her to play the music, and then in his mind, it's just going to be a better world if people listen to this rather than this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So having said all of that, I think the archetype, and it's a very common archetype, and I love it because I think it's so interesting. Is I think you need to make him more of a salesman.
Okay.
All right, and salesmen, again, they're charming, they're entertaining. I think you can make this guy. I mean, Lester Bangs definitely had moments, where and don't think of him as being angry. think of him as being passionate about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I would love to see a little bit more passion at the top of the scene, and then also, I don't remember. I've only seen this movie one time, but was Lester ever? Did he ever get drunk or high? Did he ever have?
I don't know.
Well, that's
I haven't seen the movie in a million years.
yeah, but just in terms of, one of the reasons we talk so much about character flaws is because number one, if a character is flawed, then that gives them an obstacle to have to overcome in order to accomplish whatever they want to. But also, it makes them identifiable. If you ever find yourself wanting to make your character perfect, or just scrap it because it's just not that interesting. It's like Ariana was talking about Ozark. Everyone is so flawed, so damaged, so destructive. I think that was the appeal of Tiger King. There wasn't one good person in that entire series. Think about it. Everyone was just such a wreck. It's just crazy. So let's explore those angles a little bit more in your work. I think it would be really fun if you made him either drunk or just really, really high and just really selling it. That's an interesting character that you can use your life, you can use your passion and your experience to inform this, but ultimately we want to create a character that people are going to watch. Because let's say the character breakdown comes out, they're going to describe this guy in certain ways. They might say, he's loud, he's abrasive, he's outspoken, he's colorful, just whatever. And you want to make sure, ultimately what all they mean is he's interesting. So you have to find your own way of being truthful but still interesting.
Yeah.
And I think all of us have all of the little archetypes dancing around in us anyway. We just have to pull certain ones to the surface at certain times, depending upon what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the rework because I think it'll be really fun.
Thanks. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Fun work.
Okay. So this is what